The call came in at 12:04 a.m. I know the exact time because I had been asleep for 11 minutes. I remember checking the clock right before I turned the light off. That specific exhausted relief of someone who had made it through the entire day without doing anything he would regret. And then my phone lit up the ceiling, and I saw her name, and I lay there watching it ring. Like a man, watching a car move through an intersection, who understands, very clearly, that he is about to witness something. Her name is Celeste. She got married at 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon in a vineyard 40 minutes outside the city, in a dress her mother had cried about in the shop, in front of 112 people whose names I know because I had, at one point, expected to be among them. I was not among them. I was home. I had been home all day, deliberately, occupying myself with the kind of tasks people invent when they need their hands to have a job, reorganizing a bookshelf, then reorganizing it back, cooking a meal more complicated than I needed, eating it standing at the counter. I let the phone ring 4 times. Then I picked up. She was outside. I could tell from the sound, wind moving somewhere. A distant thread of music still running from inside. The specific acoustic quality of a night that has not yet ended. Her voice was not the voice of someone crying. It was the voice of someone who had made a decision and was calling to inform me of it. The same voice she uses when she has thought something through completely and arrived at the other side and is now reporting from there. She said, "I need to tell you something." I said, "Okay." She said, "I think I made a mistake." The music was something slow, something with strings. I could hear it faintly behind her, still going, her wedding reception still going, her husband somewhere in that building not knowing she was outside saying this to me. I said, "Celeste." She said, "I know." I should explain who she is to me, or was, or both. Because those categories have never been clean, and I have stopped pretending they are. We were together for 3 years. We ended 18 months before her wedding day, in the particular way things end when nothing is catastrophically wrong and everything is gradually insufficient. Too many small distances that accumulate until you look across the room at someone you love and realize you have been lonely for a year. She wanted a different life than I was building. That was the honest version. She wanted permanence and clarity and a future that had a specific shape. And I was building something that did not have a shape yet. And she was not wrong to need what she needed. I told her that when she left. I believed it when I said it. She met the man she married. His name is Daniel. I know too much about him from peripheral sources I should have avoided 8 months after we ended. He is stable in the ways I was not yet. He had the shape she was looking for. She told me about him over coffee 14 months ago, one of those careful civilized check-ins that people who have loved each other attempt in the spirit of proving they can. And her face when she mentioned him had a settled quality I recognized as someone who has found the harbor after open water. I was glad for her. I was genuinely glad for her. I went home and didn't sleep for 2 nights, but I was glad for her. Her wedding invitation arrived in the mail. Cream envelope, her handwriting on the outside. I held it for a long time before I opened it. Then I RSVP'd no with a gift and a note that said only that I hoped the day was everything she wanted. She texted back a single word. "Thank you." I did not respond. That felt like the right amount of distance to maintain. Now it was 12:04 a.m., and she was outside her own reception, telling me she had made a mistake, and the string music was still going. "Tell me what happened," I said. Not because I didn't have theories, because I wanted to hear it from her. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said that nothing happened, which was the thing that happened. She said the entire day had been perfect. The dress, the vineyard, the light at 4 o'clock coming through the vines the way she had imagined it. Daniel's face when she walked toward him, the vows they had written, the first dance, the dinner, the toasts. All of it perfect. And she had been standing inside an hour ago, watching her new husband laugh with his friends, thinking, I am happy. And then the thought that followed it, uninvited, like something that had been waiting for the exact moment when her defenses were at their lowest. Is this the right happy? I don't know what that means, she said. I don't know if it means anything. But I called you because you're the only person I've ever been able to ask something and trust that you'd give me the real answer. I was quiet. She said, So I'm asking, what do I do with a thought like that? I want to be precise about what I felt in that moment, because it would be easy and dishonest to describe it as simple. It was not simple. There was a part of me, the part that had reorganized the bookshelf twice today, the part that had held a cream envelope for too long before opening it, that understood exactly what was available in this phone call if I reached for it. She was outside. She was uncertain. She had called me. The architecture of the moment had a specific shape, and I was not unaware of the shape. I was also aware that the woman I loved for 3 years, the actual woman, not the idea of her I'd been quietly maintaining like a pilot light, was standing outside her wedding reception genuinely frightened, and that she had called me because I was the person she trusted with the real answer. Those two things were both present. I chose the second one. I said, Can I ask you something first? She said yes. I said, When you were walking toward him today at 4 o'clock, the light in the vines, his face, what were you feeling? Not what you thought you should be feeling. What were you actually feeling? She didn't answer immediately. I waited. This is something I learned about Celeste over 3 years. She does not answer quickly when the answer matters. The pause means she's going somewhere honest. She said, Safe. I felt completely safe. I said, And right now standing outside calling me. What are you feeling? Another pause. She said, Scared. I said, Of what? She said, Of having made the wrong choice and not knowing it yet. I said, Celeste, can I tell you what I actually think? She said yes. I said, I think you felt safe today because you are safe. I think the thought you had wasn't a warning. I think it was the first moment all day you were still enough to be afraid of how much you have to lose. And I think you called me because I'm the version of your life where nothing was at stake yet, where you didn't have to be afraid of losing something because you hadn't fully committed to having it. You called the before, not because the before was better, because the before was safer to miss. The music inside had changed to something faster. I could hear it shift. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, That's the most honest thing anyone has said to me today. I said, You called me because you wanted the honest thing. She said, I did. I said, Then here it is, the rest of it. Go back inside. Not because you have to, because you walked toward him at 4 o'clock and you felt safe. And that is not a small thing. That is not a consolation prize. That is the thing people spend their whole lives trying to find. And you found it. And the fact that you are afraid of it is not evidence that it's wrong. It's evidence that it's real. She cried a little then. Not dramatically. Celeste doesn't cry dramatically. Just a quiet dissolution, a few seconds of it. And then she collected herself the way she always does, efficiently, like someone tidying a room. She said, I don't know what I was expecting you to say. I said, Yes, you do. A pause. Then, Yes, I do. She said she should go back in. I said she should. She said she was sorry for calling. I told her not to be. And I meant that. I want to be precise about that, too. I meant it completely. I was glad she called. Not for the reason the worst version of me had briefly considered being glad. For the reason that she had trusted me with a real question, and I had trusted myself to give the real answer. And those two things happening simultaneously at 12:04 a.m. felt like something that mattered, even if I would spend the rest of the night awake, processing what it cost. She said, "You're going to be okay, right?" I said, "I was okay before you called." She said, "That's not what I asked." I said, "I know, yes, I'm going to be okay." She said, "Good." And then, after a pause, "Thank you for picking up." I said, "Go back in, Celeste." She did. The phone went dark at 12:21 a.m. I lay there for a while looking at the ceiling, which I had apparently decided was where I did my best thinking this year. The bookshelf I had reorganized was visible from where I lay, its contents in the new arrangement that looked, I now noticed, almost exactly like the original arrangement. 17 minutes of effort to return to the start. I thought about what she had said. I think I made a mistake, and what she had meant, which is different from what she had said. What she meant was, I am terrified of being wrong. What she was feeling was not doubt about Daniel. It was the specific vertigo of someone who has chosen something irreversible and is standing on the other side of the choice for the first time, looking back at the door they walked through, and understanding for the first time that it does not open from this side. That vertigo is not evidence of a wrong choice. It is evidence of a real one. I know this because I have stood on the other side of irreversible choices and felt it. I know this because I understand the difference between missing someone and needing them back. And I hope, lying there at 12:21 a.m., that she went back in and danced with her husband, let herself have the things she had chosen. I believe she did. I don't know for certain. I did not hear from her again, which is the correct outcome and the one I wanted for her. I reorganized the bookshelf one more time in the morning. Third arrangement. Still wrong. I left it wrong and went and made coffee, and stood at the window and thought about the difference between the before and the after, and about the specific bravery required to stay inside a real thing when the window is technically still open, and about how the most loving thing you can do for someone sometimes is to close the window for them when they are too afraid to close it themselves. She called me because I was the real answer. I gave it. That is, I think, the best version of what we were to each other, and the best version of what I could be for her at 12:04 a.m. in the middle of the night, while her wedding reception was still going and the strings were still playing, and she was standing outside trying to figure out whether she had walked through the right door. She had. I am confident she had. The window is closed. The bookshelf is wrong. The coffee is good. I am going to be okay. Have you ever been the person someone called when they were standing at the edge of a choice they'd already made? The person they trusted with the question they couldn't ask anyone inside the room. And if you were, what did you say? What did you wish you'd said? Tell me. I'll read every one.